Liara had never felt more out of place in her life. She stood in the central chamber of her mother-in-law's palace, her palms sweating, heart racing. Around her, the alien council waited silently, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and judgment. Her voice trembled, yet she forced it steady as she spoke. "Will you mate with my mom?" she asked. The words hung in the air like a dangerous gas, waiting to ignite the room. For a moment the council said nothing. The room, usually filled with soft hums of alien machinery and the subtle scent of their rare flowers, seemed to hold its breath. Liara's hands clenched at her sides, the weight of her request pressing down like a mountain. She had thought long and hard before coming here. She knew the risks, knew how scandalous the idea sounded, but there was no other way. The survival of her husband's family and the continuation of their bloodline depended on it. Her husband, Varen, had been away for months on a diplomatic mission to a distant star system. Without him, the family had no clear guidance. Liara had tried to follow all customs, to maintain decorum and respect, but the colony's council had grown impatient. Their traditions were strict. Only those who could ensure the strongest genetic survival were considered suitable mates. The news had come quietly, but its implications were severe. Varen's mother, the matriarch of their family, was suffering from a rare illness that made reproduction dangerous and uncertain. The council demanded a solution immediately. The silence of the chamber made Liara's heart pound faster. She glanced around the room, seeing the mixture of alien shapes and features. They were a diverse people, some with elongated limbs, some with skin that shimmered like liquid metal, and others whose eyes glowed faintly with inner light. Each one represented a lifetime of tradition and authority. And here she was, a young alien woman daring to challenge every expectation. "Liara," said a deep, resonant voice. The eldest council member, known as Tikar, leaned forward, his many eyes narrowing. "Do you understand what you are asking?" "Yes," Liara said, holding her head high despite the trembling in her chest. "I understand, but my mother-in-law's health is failing, and if nothing is done, the family line may end. I have no choice." The council members exchanged looks, their whispers filling the room in a strange, melodic cadence. It was rare for a young woman to address the council directly, let alone propose something so unorthodox. Some shook their heads in disbelief, others leaned closer, intrigued. One figure remained silent, a human. Jason had been living among the colony for several months, sent originally as an observer and assistant by his own people. He was quiet, methodical, and curious, qualities that had allowed him to gain the trust of some of the more progressive members of the colony. Today, he observed the situation with a calm that contrasted sharply with the tension around him. "Why are you looking at me?" Liara finally said, noticing his gaze. "I need someone who understands what I'm asking, and maybe only a human could help." A murmur ran through the council. Humans were outsiders. Their biology was different, their culture unpredictable. And yet, the colony had learned over the years that humans often possessed qualities that even the most accomplished aliens lacked: creativity, resilience, and courage under pressure. Jason stepped forward slowly, his movements careful, deliberate. "I need to understand everything before I agree to anything," he said. His voice was calm but firm. "Tell me what exactly is required, and why this cannot be handled within your own people." Liara took a deep breath and began to explain. She detailed the medical condition that threatened her mother-in-law's ability to reproduce, the council's demand for a mate capable of stabilizing the bloodline, and the impossibility of finding anyone else willing or able to meet the strict genetic requirements. She spoke in plain words, avoiding unnecessary jargon, hoping he would understand the urgency. Jason listened attentively. He had seen strange and complex biological systems before, but this was different. The aliens' genetic structures were far more complicated than anything he had encountered. Compatibility was not just about physical ability. It involved chemical resonance, neurological synchronization, and even emotional alignment. It was a delicate balance that humans rarely achieved, yet his own species, flexibility and adaptability gave him a chance others lacked. "You're asking me to participate in a process I don't fully understand," Jason said finally, looking at Liara with steady eyes. "But I see the risk and the importance. I will help you, but we need to proceed carefully. One wrong step and it could end badly for everyone." Relief washed over Liara like a warm tide. She had expected doubt, hesitation, or even outright rejection. Instead, she found someone willing to face the unknown with her. "Thank you," she said softly. I don't know how to do this without you." The council, initially skeptical, now had to consider a human as part of one of their most critical cultural procedures. T-Car's many eyes studied Jason. "You are aware, human," he said slowly, "that failure is not an option. Your actions will affect not only one family but the entire colony. Can you bear that responsibility?" Jason nodded. "I understand, and I will do my best." That is all anyone can do. Liara's mother-in-law, Arvella, had remained silent until now. She had watched the proceedings with a mixture of suspicion and pride. Her family's honor and survival were paramount, and she did not take lightly the involvement of an outsider. Now she spoke, her voice low and commanding. "If this human can truly understand what is required and perform the task without harming me or the family, then he may proceed. But I warn you, one misstep and I will not forgive it." Jason bowed his head slightly, acknowledging her authority. "I will follow your guidance every step of the way," he promised. With that, the council adjourned, leaving Liara, Arvella, and Jason alone in the chamber. The human and the young alien woman moved closer to Arvella, who studied Jason intently. "I have seen humans in our colony before," she said carefully, "but none have proven themselves capable of understanding the intricacies of our genetics and traditions. You must show me that you are different." Jason smiled faintly. "I intend to." Over the following days, Jason began his careful study of Arvella's condition. Liara assisted him, translating complex medical data into language he could understand and offering insights into her mother-in-law's personal preferences and cultural protocols. They spent long hours in laboratories and private chambers, analyzing genetic samples, mapping chemical resonances, and experimenting with adaptive techniques that combined human innovation with alien science. As the days passed, an unexpected dynamic developed. Arvella, once distant and stern, began to show signs of curiosity and even respect for Jason. He approached the task not as a conquest or obligation, but as a partnership. He listened to her concerns, adapted his methods to her comfort, and treated her not as an object of procedure but as a valued participant in the process. Liara noticed the subtle change. She had worried that involving a human would only create tension or scandal. Instead, it fostered a new kind of trust and understanding. Her mother-in-law's demeanor softened slightly, her rigid expectations easing under the careful attention and respect Jason showed. Even the other members of the colony began to take notice. Whispers of a human who could bridge the gap between alien tradition and innovative problem-solving spread throughout the palace and beyond. Some were skeptical, some fearful, but many were intrigued. Jason's quiet competence and unwavering focus made it clear that he was not merely an outsider meddling in alien affairs. He was a unique asset, one whose contributions could reshape the colony's understanding of cooperation across species. One evening, as Liara and Jason reviewed the day's data, she spoke softly. "I never imagined a human could be this capable," she said. "I thought our customs would make it impossible for you to help, but you've made it easier than I ever hoped." Jason looked at her, a small smile on his face. "I didn't come here to change your world," he said. "I came to help, but sometimes helping means finding new ways to solve old problems." Liara nodded, feeling a warmth she could not quite explain. She had come seeking assistance, but she had also found someone who understood courage, responsibility, and empathy in ways that transcended culture or species. The first part of their journey was coming to an end, but the real challenge lay ahead. The procedure itself, the act that would determine the survival of the family line, was looming. Jason knew it would require precision, emotional intelligence, and careful navigation of alien customs. Any mistake could have dire consequences. Arvella, for her part, had begun to see Jason not as a human outsider, but as a bridge between her people and a new understanding of resilience and trust. She remained cautious, but the seed of cooperation had been planted. As the chamber lights dimmed that night, Liara looked at Jason and said quietly, "Tomorrow we face the hardest part. Are you ready?" Jason nodded. "I am, and we'll do it together." In the silence that followed, the three of them, human, daughter-in-law, and matriarch, stood at the edge of a future that none could fully predict. The survival of a bloodline, the honor of a family, and the potential of cross-species cooperation rested on their shoulders. For Liara, hope burned brighter than fear. For Jason, understanding and empathy would guide every step. And for Arvella, the choice to trust an outsider might change not only her family's future, but the way her entire colony viewed humanity. The first part ended with the quiet hum of the chamber fading into the night, the stars outside shining as witnesses to a story that was only beginning, a story of courage, innovation, and the unexpected power of human determination. The next morning, the palace was unusually quiet. Even the usual hum of the alien machinery seemed softer, as if the colony itself knew that today marked the beginning of a pivotal event. Liara woke early, her mind racing with anticipation and worry. She moved through the corridors with careful steps, aware of the significance of what was about to happen. The council had granted permission for Jason to assist her mother-in-law, but the process they were about to undertake was unprecedented, delicate, and fraught with risk. Jason had already been in the lab, reviewing notes and simulations. He had spent weeks studying alien biology, their genetic sequences, and the intricate balance of chemical and neurological compatibility required for the procedure. Yet despite all his preparation, he could not fully predict how the matriarch's body would respond. Every step required precision, every action needed to respect the alien traditions. He understood that failure was not just a scientific problem, it could have social and political consequences that rippled across the colony. Liara entered the lab quietly, carrying a tray of nutrient infusions prepared for her mother-in-law. She noticed Jason's focus, the way he moved with a steady determination that made even the complex alien equipment seem manageable. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice soft, almost hesitant. Jason looked up, giving her a reassuring nod. "I've reviewed everything again. I know what to do, but I will need your help, Liara. Some parts require your guidance more than my science." Liara smiled faintly, relief mingling with the anxiety in her chest. "I'll be there, every step." When Arvella entered the lab, her presence filled the room with authority. Her tall, regal frame seemed to dwarf the machinery, and even Jason, who was human and slightly taller than most aliens, looked smaller in comparison. Her eyes, sharp and commanding, scanned the setup carefully. "I trust you have prepared everything according to our customs," she said, her voice low but firm. Jason bowed slightly. "Everything is prepared. I've combined traditional methods with adaptive procedures to ensure safety and maximize compatibility." Arvella studied him, her expression unreadable. She had been wary of humans, suspicious of their motives and reliability. Yet Jason's careful demeanor, his attention to every detail, and his respect for her role made it impossible to dismiss him entirely. Slowly, she nodded. "Then we begin." The procedure required a delicate synchronization of technology and biology. Jason first adjusted a series of devices that monitored Arvella's neural activity, hormonal levels, and energy flows. These devices, although alien in design, responded to human input with remarkable precision. Liara assisted, making small adjustments under Jason's instructions, ensuring that every reading was accurate. As the process continued, the room was filled with soft hums and occasional beeps. Jason spoke quietly, explaining each step to Arvella and Liara, helping them understand what was happening without overwhelming them with technical jargon. He knew that part of his role was not just to perform the procedure, but to build trust and confidence. Fear could disrupt the delicate balance they needed, so reassurance was as important as precision. Hours passed. The initial tests showed promising results. Arvella's condition, while still fragile, was responding positively to the combined techniques. Jason's human perspective allowed him to notice patterns that traditional alien methods had overlooked, subtle shifts in chemical balance and energy flow that indicated readiness for the next phase. Liara watched closely, her hope growing with every successful reading. Yet not everything went smoothly. At one point, a sudden spike in Arvella's energy readings caused a brief alarm. Jason reacted instantly, adjusting the calibration of the monitoring devices and instructing Liara to stabilize the nutrient infusion. "It's a minor fluctuation," he said calmly. "Nothing dangerous, just a sign that her system is responding to the stimuli. We can adapt." Arvella's eyes narrowed. "You remain calm under pressure, human. I had expected arrogance or fear. Instead, you respond with understanding." Jason smiled faintly. "Experience has taught me that fear doesn't solve problems. Observation and careful action do." The matriarch studied him for a long moment, then nodded slightly. Her trust, though still cautious, was growing. Liara noticed a change in her demeanor, a subtle softening, a willingness to cooperate rather than resist. It was a sign that Jason's approach was working, not just scientifically, but socially and emotionally as well. As the day progressed, Liara and Jason worked together to prepare for the final phase of the procedure. This required more than technical skill. It demanded emotional intelligence and a deep understanding of alien customs. Jason had spent time learning these traditions from Liara, observing how Arvella responded to different gestures, tones, and environmental cues. Every detail mattered. One wrong move could cause stress, disrupt the process, and endanger the matriarch's health. Liara marveled at Jason's dedication. He approached each step with humility, never assuming he knew better than the matriarch or the council's guidelines. Instead, he blended human ingenuity with alien tradition, creating a process that was both safe and effective. She realized that he was not just performing a task, he was earning trust, building connections, and proving that humans could contribute in ways her society had never considered. By evening, the atmosphere in the lab had shifted. The initial tension and fear were replaced by a quiet determination. Arvella, while still wary, moved with more confidence, responding to Jason's instructions and demonstrating a willingness to engage fully in the process. Liara felt a surge of hope. This was the first time she had seen her mother-in-law participate willingly, without resistance or skepticism. Jason took a moment to review the data on the monitors. "Everything is stable," he said. "Her system is ready for the next stage. We just need to proceed carefully, maintain focus, and continue monitoring every response." Arvella's eyes met his. "You have proven yourself capable, human. If this succeeds, you will not be forgotten in our history. Proceed." Liara felt a shiver of anticipation. The final stage would require precise timing and synchronization. Any misstep could compromise the results, but Jason's steady presence inspired confidence. He guided Arvella through the necessary adjustments, explaining each step and ensuring her comfort. Liara assisted, offering gentle reassurances and observing every response. As the process unfolded, a remarkable thing happened. Jason's human intuition allowed him to anticipate minor fluctuations and adapt instantly. He noticed patterns in Arvella's energy flows that traditional methods had overlooked, subtle shifts that indicated readiness for key transitions. With Liara's help, he adjusted the devices and procedures, guiding the matriarch through each stage with precision and care. Hours turned into night. The lab was quiet except for the soft hum of machinery and the occasional word of instruction. Liara watched as Jason and Arvella worked together, their cooperation growing stronger with every passing moment. The matriarch's initial wariness was replaced by trust, a silent acknowledgement of Jason's competence and understanding. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the final reading stabilized. Jason monitored the data carefully, confirming that the procedure had succeeded. Arvella's condition had improved, and the delicate balance required for reproductive stability was achieved. Liara felt tears prick at her eyes, a mixture of relief, joy, and amazement. Arvella looked at Jason with a rare expression of gratitude. "You have done what no one else could," she said. "You have preserved my family's future and earned a place of honor among us. Your actions demonstrate the value of courage, understanding, and intelligence beyond species." Jason nodded humbly. "I only did what was necessary. It is your cooperation and trust that made this possible." Liara stepped forward, taking her mother-in-law's hand. "Thank you," she said softly. "You believed in him even when it was hard to trust. Together, we did what seemed impossible." Arvella smiled faintly, a rare warmth in her eyes. "Perhaps I underestimated humans," she admitted. "They are capable of more than I imagined, and perhaps this colony is capable of more than I believed." Outside the lab, news of the success began to spread quietly. Whispers of a human who had contributed to the survival of an important family line reached other parts of the colony. Some were skeptical, some fearful, but many were intrigued. The event challenged long-held assumptions about humans and their place in alien society. Jason's role demonstrated that courage, empathy, and innovation could bridge even the widest gaps between species. Liara, exhausted but elated, looked at Jason. "You've changed everything," she said softly. Jason smiled, a quiet, steady expression. "We've changed everything together, and there's still work to do making sure this trust lasts, making sure the colony sees what we have learned." Arvella, standing beside them, nodded in agreement. "Tomorrow, we will begin the next stage of integration. Humans and aliens working together. Perhaps this is the future of our colony." For Liara, hope burned brighter than ever. The impossible had been achieved, and a human had proven that courage, intelligence, and understanding could transcend tradition and expectation. For Jason, the success was not just scientific. It was a testament to humanity's potential to contribute meaningfully to worlds beyond their own. And for Arvella, the matriarch, it was a lesson in trust, collaboration, and the unexpected strength that came from embracing the unknown. As the lab lights dimmed and the night outside enveloped the palace, the three of them, human, daughter-in-law, and matriarch, stood together, knowing that their work had only just begun. The future was uncertain, full of challenges and possibilities, but they had proven that cooperation, courage, and intelligence could overcome even the most daunting obstacles. The stars outside seemed to shine a little brighter that night, bearing witness to a story of trust, bravery, and the extraordinary power of one human to make a difference in an alien world. The following morning, the palace was alive with quiet energy. The events of the previous day had shifted something profound within the colony. Whispers and glances followed Jason wherever he moved, some filled with curiosity, others with respect. He, however, remained focused on the task at hand. The success of the initial procedure had been only the beginning. Now, they faced the next stage, ensuring the long-term stability and acceptance of the outcome, and helping the colony understand the value of cross-species collaboration. Liara moved through the corridors beside him, carrying instruments and data pads. She had grown accustomed to Jason's calm presence, and she found herself admiring his patience and insight more with each passing day. Despite the enormity of what they were doing, he never showed arrogance, never demanded recognition. Instead, he worked quietly, carefully, and efficiently, earning the trust of both Liara and her mother-in-law. When they entered the chamber, Arvella was already waiting, seated on a platform that allowed her to monitor her own health readings. Her posture was regal as ever, but there was a subtle warmth in her eyes, a recognition of what had been accomplished and a cautious optimism for what could follow. "Are we ready?" she asked, her voice steady but carrying the weight of authority. Jason nodded. "Yes. The systems are stable, and your responses yesterday were excellent. Today, we will reinforce the procedure, ensure the long-term stability, and integrate the results fully. It will require cooperation, focus, and careful attention to every signal from your body." Arvella studied him for a long moment. Trust was never freely given in her society, and yet she found herself relying on this human who had proven himself capable of understanding their most complex traditions. "Then we proceed," she said, her voice carrying both command and an unspoken acknowledgement of respect. The next several hours were a blend of science, ritual, and careful human insight. Jason monitored Arvella's vital signs, her chemical signals, and neurological patterns, making adjustments where necessary to ensure optimal compatibility. Liara assisted, guiding him through subtle cultural practices, helping maintain her mother-in-law's comfort and mental focus. Every small movement, every slight gesture mattered, as it could influence the delicate balance they sought to maintain. As the procedure continued, Jason noticed something remarkable. The matriarch's body responded not only to the technical adjustments, but also to the confidence and calm that he projected. Unlike many of her species, humans relied heavily on observation and adaptability rather than rigid instinct or tradition. Jason's ability to combine careful calculation with empathetic guidance created a synergy that no alien method alone could achieve. Liara watched in awe as her mother-in-law began to relax further. Arvella, once stern and commanding, now showed subtle signs of trust and even admiration. It was clear that she had come to understand the human's value, not only as an assistant in a critical biological procedure, but as someone who could bridge the gap between cultures, species, and expectations. Hours passed. The lab was filled with the soft hum of machinery, the occasional beep of monitors, and the rhythmic sound of carefully measured steps. Jason moved methodically, his attention unwavering. He explained each adjustment to Liara and Arvella, ensuring that they understood the rationale behind every action. Knowledge, he knew, was a form of empowerment, and by sharing it, he strengthened the trust that was essential for success. Finally, the critical phase arrived. Jason carefully initiated the final synchronization, a process that required precise timing and emotional alignment. Liara assisted, guiding her mother-in-law through the necessary rituals and cues. Arvella responded with grace and composure, demonstrating a remarkable adaptability that even Jason had not fully anticipated. As the final sequence completed, monitors stabilized, and the readings confirmed that the procedure had succeeded. The long-term stability was established. Arvella's health was secure, her genetic compatibility fully reinforced. Liara felt a surge of relief, joy, and pride. The impossible had been achieved, and it was clear that Jason's unique perspective had been essential to the success. Arvella, her eyes softer than ever, turned to Jason. "You have accomplished what no one in this colony thought possible," she said. "Not only have you preserved my family, but you have shown us the potential of cooperation across species. Your wisdom, patience, and understanding have earned my respect." Jason bowed slightly. "I did what was necessary. The credit belongs to all of us. Your guidance, Liara's support, and your cooperation made this possible." Liara stepped forward, taking her mother-in-law's hand. "We couldn't have done it without him," she said softly. "He has proven that humans can contribute in ways we never imagined." Arvella nodded, a rare smile touching her lips. "Perhaps I was wrong to doubt humans. They are capable of insight, courage, and understanding that can surpass even the most rigid traditions. And perhaps this colony is capable of more than I believed." Outside the chamber, the news of the procedure's success began to spread. Whispers of a human who had preserved an important family line reached every corner of the colony. Some aliens were skeptical, others curious, but many were impressed. Jason's role challenged their assumptions, demonstrating that intelligence, empathy, and innovation could come from unexpected sources. The next days were a mixture of follow-up procedures, monitoring, and cultural integration. Jason continued to work closely with Arvella and Liara, ensuring that the results remained stable and teaching the colony's young scientists and medical experts the combined methods that had led to success. His presence gradually became a symbol of trust, not just between individuals, but between species. Liara often found herself reflecting on the events that had brought them here. She had come seeking help out of desperation, unsure if any human could understand her people's complex traditions. Yet Jason had proven that courage, patience, and understanding could overcome barriers that culture and biology alone could not. She admired him not only for his skill but for his humility, his willingness to learn, and his unwavering respect for her mother-in-law. Arvella, too, had changed. The matriarch, once rigid and cautious, began to adopt a more flexible approach to leadership. She saw the value in collaboration, the potential for learning from those outside their immediate species, and the strength that came from trust and adaptability. Jason's influence had been subtle but profound, altering the way she viewed the world and the role of humans within it. One evening, after a long day of monitoring and discussion, Liara and Jason stood on a balcony overlooking the alien city. The twin suns were setting, casting long shadows and bathing the landscape in hues of gold and violet. The air was calm, filled with the soft hum of distant machinery and the occasional whisper of the wind through crystalline structures. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't come?" Liara asked quietly, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Jason smiled faintly. "I try not to. There's no point in wondering about paths not taken. All that matters is what we do now and how we use what we've learned." Liara nodded. "You've changed everything, not just for my family but for the colony. They're starting to see humans differently because of you." Jason shrugged modestly. "I just did what anyone would do in my place." But yes, it seems humans have more to offer than we often give ourselves credit for. They stood in silence for a while, the weight of their accomplishment settling around them. The impossible had been achieved. A human had preserved an alien bloodline, earned the trust of a powerful matriarch, and demonstrated the value of intelligence, empathy, and courage across species boundaries. Back in the palace, Arvella addressed the council, explaining the success of the procedure and the role that Jason had played. The council listened carefully, some nodding in approval, others still cautious but intrigued. It was unprecedented for a human to be recognized in such a capacity, but the evidence was undeniable. Jason's contribution had not only stabilized the family line, but had also introduced a new perspective on cross-species collaboration, innovation, and trust. Over the following weeks, the colony began to adapt to this new understanding. Human ingenuity and empathy were no longer dismissed as irrelevant. They were recognized as potential assets in the preservation and growth of the colony. Jason continued to work alongside Liara, Arvella, and the council, demonstrating practical applications of human insight while respecting alien traditions. Liara observed the changes with quiet satisfaction. She had feared the consequences of seeking help from a human, worried that it might bring scandal or danger. Instead, she found hope, collaboration, and a path forward that no one had imagined. Her mother-in-law, once skeptical and rigid, had come to trust Jason and acknowledge the value of humans. The family line was secure, and a bridge had been built between two very different worlds. One night, as the stars shimmered over the alien city, Arvella called Liara and Jason to her chamber. She regarded them with her usual authority, but there was warmth in her expression. "You have done more than preserve a family," she said. "You have shown us what is possible when courage, wisdom, and respect guide our actions. You have set a new standard for cooperation and understanding." Jason bowed his head humbly. "I only did what I could. The credit belongs to all of us." Liara smiled, feeling the weight of relief and triumph. "We did this together, and now the future is brighter because of it." As they left the chamber, the three of them, human, daughter-in-law, and matriarch, stood united in a shared understanding. The colony had changed. Humanity's potential had been recognized, not through force or domination, but through intelligence, courage, and empathy. And as the twin suns rose the next morning, their light seemed to promise new beginnings, new alliances, and a galaxy in which humans could stand shoulder to shoulder with the most powerful alien civilizations. The story of Jason, Liara, and Arvella became one told across the colony for generations. It was a tale of courage, innovation, and the unexpected ways one human could make a difference in an alien world. The impossible had been achieved, not through conflict or domination, but through understanding, respect, and the quiet heroism of a single individual who dared to act when it mattered most. And in the end, that was what truly defined humanity. Not their strength, not their weapons, but their ability to think, adapt, and inspire trust in worlds far beyond their own.